Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the show is the promoter of Hex Fight Series, Jacob Watts. Always love having him on. He's here to promote Hex Fight Series 29 with some news on Hex Fight Series 30, plus some rumours like the fact that Abdallah Biata, who's the interim featherweight champion, the interim seem to have got lost on some of their promotional material, and the official champion, Kaan Ofli, he seems to state that no, he's in fact the real champion. So we will find out from Jacob himself. Plus a lot of other fight rumours. We've got how the Aldin Bates and Jono Mikalev fight came about. Aldin Bates, of course, was scheduled to fight on Eternal for the welterweight belt. There's loads more news about some of the city kickboxing boys that will be fighting in New Zealand. And, of course, we break down the Hex Fight Series 29 on March 2nd. We break down those fights at Melbourne Pavilion, why it's back at Melbourne Pavilion. Also, their broadcast partner, beIN Sports, has now been obtained by Amazon in a bit of a partnership deal. So an even wider reach for everyone competing at Hex Fight Series. Plus, even a fun little story about Raja Shippen and his opponent, which, if you remember last event, his opponent essentially no-showed the event. He was flown internationally, no-showed, and word is he didn't even get on his flight back to his own country after not fighting. So a lot of fun, a lot of great stories, a lot of great rumours. If you've ever wanted me to stir the pot, I don't do it better than with anyone else. Jacob Watts, he plays the game, but does he give it all up? He'll have to listen. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, Jacob Watts. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, the worst promoter in Australia, Jacob Watts from Hex. Hey, mate.
Hey, Mitchell, how are you?
Yeah, good. We'll start off with a light question. Is Kaan Ofli still your Hex featherweight champion?
Look, there's been no conversations between us and Kaan at the moment. Obviously, we've tried to make that fight with Abdallah on a couple of occasions, and we'd still love to do that fight. I think that's the fight that everyone wants to see at featherweight, but there hasn't been any conversations yet. So,
because there was some news that came out in the media that Abdallah Biata, who was the interim featherweight champion, who next weekend is looking to become double champ against Harry Webb for the lightweight title, some brilliant media member noticed that he is no longer interim on a lot of your promotional material, hence sending the scene into a stir. Then announced that. Then from the stands, love those boys, they came out and talked to Kaan Ofli, and Kaan Ofli said, no, I am still the champion. Were you aware of that storm?
I did see that Australia's worst media outlet covered that. Why can't we have two champions? I think hopefully that fight with Kaan and Abdallah happens one day, because I think obviously Abdallah and Kaan are both pretty close to making that jump to the UFC, and I think if that fight had played out last year, there would have been the winners in. It would have been a great fight. I guess a tale of two different styles. So hopefully that's a fight we do get to see down the line.
It's almost like making interim champions is controversial for a reason.
You love interim champs, don't you?
It's just, but look, is he listed though? As it was on a typo, is Abdallah Biata listed as your Hex featherweight champion?
He is our interim champion, and Kaan's still a champion. There hasn't been that conversation yet. We obviously had a really busy end to 2023 with Festival Hall, and then jumping straight into March and then New Zealand. It's been a bit of a whirlwind, but I think that fight needs to happen. I think especially now with all the media storm, as you put it, around these two, I think that is a fight that just has to happen in 2024.
What's holding him back?
I kind of just wanted to take a little bit of a break. He's obviously moved over to Bali. He had that injury with his knee, and had to pull out of that fight, which Sam stepped into. I know that he was just working through some stuff, and then moved over to Bali. I think now he's settled over there properly. He's got a routine going, and we once we get through this Melbourne show, we'll reach out to Kaan and hopefully we can set something up.
So if Abdallah becomes double champ, will it say interim featherweight champion, or are you just going to roll? This isn't like a me causing shit. This is just will you guys kind of just ignore it when you put it up there so Abdallah still gets the hype that he deserves, but people will still be asking questions? Like, I just want to know how you might handle that.
Look, I mean, that's a bridge that we'll cross if we have to. I think that regardless, if Abdallah does win, he's still going to get the credit that he deserves. He, if he can get through someone like Harry Webb, I know how much you dislike anyone under 5-0 fighting for a title. But I think that if he can get through someone like Harry, I think that whether he's an interim champion or an undisputed champion at featherweight, I think he's going to get his flowers. And to be honest, man, if he can get through someone like that, I'd expect that he'd be getting the call. Hypothetically, he'd be 10-1. He's 6'3" at 65 kilos, has a 200 centimeter reach. Like that, he's an anomaly, and he's also an extremely skilled martial artist. Obviously, he's got a really, really tough fight ahead of him. But yeah, I think to be honest, in that fight, I know if Harry won, he'd only be 4-0, but he'd be looking at maybe one more and then jumping onto the contender later in the year. So I think that this fight is going to play a really big part in one of the next signings for the UFC out of Australia.
Now, there's 2 points I want to go on. I want to first, you mentioned the crossing the bridge when we get to it. You announced Brando, the Balkan Bear, taking on Randall Raymond, which is a massive, massive heavyweight title fight for New Zealand. It's one of the better fights going around. But he does look to be scheduled for April 20th, and your show is, I think, May 4th.
Yeah.
Now, what happens if it does not go Brando's way, the event prior?
I mean, once again, that is a bridge that we'll have to cross if we come to it. He's obviously struggled immensely to find fights. It's been 5 years since he's had an MMA fight, and he just wants to get in there and be active. And obviously, as you know, we're not the kind of people that stop people from having opportunities to fight. If he wants to take a fight prior to that, that's fine. He's an incredible fighter. His game, and I think that he just wants to fight, and I think in 2024 he's probably a shoo-in to get into the UFC or going forward. I just think he's got that ability, but he couldn't get a tougher matchup in Randall. Like, I think anyone that beats Randall is worthy of getting in the UFC, and he's 12-3. He's got, I think, 10 finishes. He's got probably the best chin on planet Earth. He bare knuckle boxes, in his backyard. He's an absolute warrior, and he's got like serious submission skills. So that's going to be a crazy fight. Everyone's kind of talking just about Brando, I think people forget how good Randall actually is, and that this is going to be a serious test for Brando.
Yeah, it is weird that him taking 2 fights is the question, not that a guy that's 1-0 is getting a title shot, because everyone who knows anything about mixed martial arts knows how good Brando is. I think that's the least critiqued you've ever been, for giving someone a title shot at 1-0. I like that's what I like about it, is that is actually how good he is. Look, I don't know. I think it's a tricky situation, but I like that he's booked in, and I like that that's a fight that's going to happen.
I mean, like you can't hate on him for wanting to stay active. It's been 5 years since he's had a fight. Like I said, if something were to happen where he suffered an injury or a knockout, I know that there's heavyweights chomping at the bit to get on the show. We would find Randall a replacement if it came to that. But yeah, you just can't knock him for being this keen and being this game.
And last little bit about New Zealand before I focus on the Melbourne card. I've had a lot of messages, and normally I say this just when I want to ask a question, but I legitimately have had a lot of messages asking if Navajo has an opponent for New Zealand.
We're just in conversations with the other side of the matchup. Navajo doesn't care who he fights. He said that to me. He goes, "I do not care. Give me anyone." So we're just going over particulars with his opponent, but I'll break the news on here that he's signed for Hex 30 as well. Another crazy talent, but yeah, he's. I'll tell you what, if we get this fight done like that, it's going to be a tough matchup for him. We're not just giving these guys giving these guys fights to get them to the UFC. We really want to test them first. Give him an even fight. So yeah, I think you'll understand once you see who he's fighting that it's going to be a really tough fight for him.
Does he also have a fight on Shuriken before Hex?
Not to my knowledge. No, I think he's fully committed to Hex.
Now, you mentioned earlier about me not being happy about guys being 5-0, getting title shots. And look, I've learned the hard way. I'll wear that. Jono Mikulev, absolute superstar. Always knew he was great. Just, I always wondered if it was too soon. If anything, I cared about him too much. He was begging for a fight. You pulled off a bit of the old switcheroo in seeing an Eternal MMA welterweight title bout between Aldin Bates and Caleb Rideout fall out. Seems you have heisted that. You have stolen the copper wire out of the wall that was Aldin Bates, and you've gotten him to a man that works with that, Jono Mikulev. You've made him happy. You've made Aldin happy. You've made the Australian fight fans happy. How did that all happen?
You're really just stirring all the pots right now, aren't you? Just no warming up, just straight into it today. Now, obviously, Jono wants to just stay active and he wants to fight the best talent that there is. He said that after he beat Joey, and we were looking for a fight. There wasn't really anyone in the regional, in the Australian and New Zealand scene that made sense at the time. And we were looking kind of outside, looking at internationals, and then I got a call from Steve Walton, Aldin's coach, and he told me that Caleb was out of his fight and asked if there was anything that we could do if we could find him a fight, because the shows were a couple of weeks apart, and it just so happened that we had a welterweight fighter looking for a fight. So that was honestly it was a really easy one to put together.
Now, I heard there was a race to get Jono on Eternal against Aldin. I have no idea if that's true, but it seemed like it was an old-fashioned shootout between Eternal and Hex, and it seems like you happened to get it done. Are you quite proud of that matchup?
I wouldn't say proud. Jono's a loyal Hex fighter. He's a champion. We've given Jono the tough fights to get him to where he is now, and he's always going to be loyal to us. So I wouldn't really say it was a race. I'm really glad that we could get Aldin on the show. He's fought on Hex before, twice, and obviously he's a great fighter. He's 8-3 with 7 knockouts. So I think it's a really good fight for the fans, and it's one that I'm really excited for.
Now, before we go into some of the other matchups on the card, has it turned into the commodity of, you say, the other promotions in Australia? It's not about ticket sales. It's not about views. It's not about streams. It's about how many guys can be their last fight before they get to the UFC. It feels like it's like who can claim the most guys.
I definitely see. I know what you're saying. It's starting to get like that. Like, this is our guy that's been in the UFC, but that since day one, since we took over, all that we've wanted to do is give these guys the best platform that we can to get them to the UFC. Now, that obviously involves ticket sales, that involves streaming, that involves venues, and we've constantly been upping our game and leveling up to give these guys that platform. I think now that we've had our first full year behind us, we've got the experience. I think that the next 2, 3, 4 years, you're going to see a lot of Hex champions moving on towards the UFC.
And is there a sort of it seems like you are really investing in the new guard as well. Like, you gave Jono Mikalev that title fight when maybe no one else was doing it at the time. You seem to have given Harry Webb a title shot very quickly as well when there's, some other guys that have been around a little bit longer than him. Is there an importance on finding that younger talent and like claiming them early?
Not necessarily claiming them. We're never hold anyone back from fighting anywhere that they want to fight. I think that once these guys have fought on the show once and they see what we're about, they see the way that we treat the fighters, the crowds that we're bringing in, the platform that they're fighting on. It's not like we don't have to. It's not about us kind of getting these guys young, getting them early. It's that these guys want to fight on Hex. So that's all it is. We're just giving these guys the best platform that we can. We're treating them as best as we can. We're treating them the way that they deserve to be treated, because without fighters, there is no Hex.
And you speak about platform. The platform got bigger, then got smaller again. We went to Festival Hall. We're now back at Melbourne Pavilion. Is there a reason for that? Of course, if you don't know Festival Hall, I think 5,000 or so. Melbourne Pavilion, I think only 2.5. Why the return?
Yeah, well, obviously the Festival Hall show was a massive, massive effort to get that show to where we did, to sell out that venue. Coming back for the first show of the year and obviously having the New Zealand show in, less than 2 months after this first show, we just really wanted to focus on building both of the shows at the same time. The Pavilion has this, it's a completely different feel. Like, the Festival Hall show felt grand, but the Pavilion has this like real fight, like grungy kind of feel. So it's good that we can now give these fighters all different looks, like going to New Zealand, going to Festival, going to Pavilion, potentially going interstate later this year or next year. There's a lot of different looks that we're giving these guys, and it's just about constantly testing ourselves and leveling up the business. And yeah, I know I keep saying it, but just keep continuing to improve this platform that we're giving the fighters.
And moving on to some of those fights on the card coming up next week. And when we speak about New Zealand, we speak about Australia. We've got a bit of a New Zealand versus Australia, a rematch 6 years in the making. I mean, how did you make the Matt Vale versus Kit Campbell fight?
Kit's wanted that fight for 6 years since Matt beat him for the title. It's always been a fight that Kit's wanted back, and we I guess the schedules just didn't really align back when they were trying to make that. It's a fight now that really makes sense with Kit obviously coming off his loss to Kevin, and Matt coming off his loss over in Bali. It's just a fight that really makes sense for both guys, because they both, even though they're coming off a loss, they've both got that renowned name in the scene. Like, everyone knows who Kit is, everyone knows who Matt is. A win over one of these guys puts you straight back up to the top of the division. So it was kind of a no-brainer. And
I mean, with that, I believe it is announced, unless I'm breaking something I'm not supposed to. I believe that Kit Campbell, Matt Vale will probably have a shot at the belt. I mean, at least saw in a Hex caption that you guys said it as probably a number one contenders fight. What do you do if a guy like Kit Campbell wins, and then we have a similar situation of when we had Sem Kakembo fighting Abdullah and Kaan was the champion, where they're teammates? Like, I know that Kit and Jono probably won't fight each other. Why do you guys keep putting yourselves in these situations?
Look, to my knowledge, that was never said from us. I might be wrong, but this is just a high-level fight. I think what I said was it's a high-level fight that is going to shape the welterweight division. I don't think I necessarily said that it was a number one contenders fight. But yeah, I think it's definitely a fight that will shape the welterweight division moving forward.
Disagree.
Are you fact checking me?
I'm gonna fact check you. I'm gonna find out, because I'm almost certain that you said that, because it's been a debate with other people. At least, even if it's not been said by you, I think it does kind of feel like that anyway.
I think it's that high level of a fight that I guess it seems like that because these guys have been two of the best welterweights in the Australian and New Zealand scene over the last 5, 6, 7 years. So,
yep, no, I will give you this. He says Matt Vale, he looks to make it 2-0 against Campbell and set up another title opportunity, but it says nothing about Kip. I'll give you that.
I think like I said, I think it's just that high level of a fight that people are automatically thinking that it is a number one contenders fight. It's very rare that you'll get two guys at that level fighting in a 3-round fight.
Yeah. I also know, because I know that I had a conversation with Wayne Carl, who does Demolition Fight Series, and he mentioned that we literally talked about them not fighting each other and vice versa. So, which ironically, Demolition Fight Series on the same night as Hex Fight Series. Normally, it's a bit of a fight weekend. Do you think that's good for the sport, or do you wish you guys could have gone on back-to-back nights?
I think it's a different crowd, so I don't think it's. I mean, it hasn't affected us. I'm not sure how his numbers are going, but it hasn't affected us. We're still about to sell out, which we have for the last 5 shows. So I think it's good because you've got the whole of Melbourne really is going to just be going to fight shows, and there's even a Muay Thai event on the night before us. So it's still a fight weekend. I think it's a different crowd that they have. Obviously with it being mostly amateurs, you've got a lot of, I guess, fighter friends and families going to watch their friend the fighters, and for us it's more of like an entertaining night. And I guess the hard MMA fans that are coming along.
You wouldn't have these numbers, but they'd be hard to get. But do you have any grasp of how many people just come to Hex shows because it's a Hex fight night and not because they know someone?
That is a hard number to base it off, but that's something that we've always tried to do with the way we run our shows. Is it's making it not just a fight show. We want to give people an entertaining night out. They might not be like a UFC fan that watches every fight every weekend, but they can come to the show, they can have a drink, they can watch some fights and have a really good night out. So that's one thing we really focus on. Is it not just being a fight night? Is it being an experience?
And you're kind of putting that to the test because I'm sure you're aware of this. I mean, it's a predominantly Melbourne-based show. And if it goes against Melbourne, you've got Aldin Bates from WA. If he knocks out John O'Mikulev, he's the title holder. If Abdallah Biata knocks out Harry Webb, he's the title holder. You then got Cody Haddon, title holder. Like you're gonna have to have a Western Australia show.
Yeah, Perth 2024. I mean, we've got such a good fan base here in Melbourne that I think even if we didn't have the Melbourne fighters on the card, we would still be selling out the shows because. Like I said, it's not just a fight show. It's an experience. It's an entertaining night. It's a chance to get out with your mates and have a few beers and have a good night. So, yeah, it'll definitely be interesting if we've got 3 Perth champions. We might have to make a trip up there.
And a couple more. We've got Michael Barber, Sem Kikembo. That fight has been made 12 times.
Yeah, it's the Tony and Khabib of Australia. It's a fight that both guys have wanted to happen for a while, and Barber's just been calling for it, and then Sam's been calling for it, but then something's happened. Like obviously we had Sam move into the Abdallah fight, and then Michael broke his nose. I've been chatting to both guys, and they're both really fit, healthy, and ready to go. So. Fingers crossed, touch wood, that nothing happens and both of these guys can get to their fight safely.
And I wanted to ask you about Emrahan Hekimoglu's least favourite fight, Michael Manu taking on Colby Thickness.
I don't know if they're gonna like hug or kiss at the at the press conference. These guys, what is it? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Or something.
Yeah,
These guys are gonna. These guys,
That's how we became friends.
yeah. No, I have no enemies. Come on. I think like that's a crazy fight, to be honest. That's they're both really really nice guys, but they're the kind of people that as soon as that cage door closes, that switch flicks, and yeah, I'm really interested to see how that one turns out. Now we have publicly announced that one will be a number one contenders fight for the winner of Cody Haddon and Paul Loga. So yeah, I'm super interested to see how that one plays out as well.
And the Paul Logan Cody Haddon fight, I mean, there was a bit of drama there as to why we all wanted to see that Sean Gauchi Cody Haddon fight. Can you tell us what happened there and why that didn't eventuate?
Yeah, look, last year Sean came to us and said that he wanted to make the move down to flyweight. It's been something that we had spoken about in the past. He's probably more of a natural flyweight fighter. And yeah, I guess he came to us last year and said that he wanted to make the move down to flyweight. He really did want that Cody Haddon fight. Obviously, he had, I guess, turned up twice for that. Obviously, Cody had those injuries and had to pull out. It was a fight that Sean really wanted. He did everything he could to get to those fights. But yeah, he just, in the end, he said, I've got to do what's best for me, and what's best for me is going to flyweight. So yeah, we'll have Sean on sometime this year at flyweight, and yeah, I think it's what the UFC wants from him as well.
Is it a company reward for Paul Loga for being ready to step up and taking that Sean fight?
Not necessarily, I guess, a reward. Like he's worthy of fighting for the title. He's been, an absolute warrior in the bantamweight division. If you look at the three people he's lost to in the last 5 years, it's Steve Erceg twice, Shannon Ross, and Aaron Tao. So he's an absolute warrior. Obviously, he did show up to that fight. He weighed in, even when Sean was out, we were trying to find Paul an opponent. He still just came and weighed in. So I think it was a no-brainer to have him, once Sean had decided he wanted to go down to fly, it was kind of a no-brainer to have Paul fight. I think he's definitely deserving of the title fight, and I think that'll be a really fun fight with him and Cody.
And to wrap up the final two fights, Aldin Bates, John Mikalev for the welterweight belt, Harry Webb, Abdallah Biata for the lightweight belt. Abdallah looking to become double champ or 1.5 champ, depending on how you look at it. How do you sum both those fights up?
Absolute wars, I think. I'm excited for both of them. I think the Jono and Aldin fight is really interesting because obviously, like you look at Aldin's record, he's got his method of victory. He's a great grappler, but he's coming to knock you out. Jono showed against Joey that he can mix it up, so it's just going to be interesting to see which route that fight goes down. And any time that either Harry or Abdallah are fighting, it's going to be a fun fight. So watching those two, it's going to be, is Harry ready? Is he ready this early on? Or is Abdallah going to do what he's been doing to everyone else and just use his skills and his size to get the victory?
And a couple more before I let you go. Did you ever find Raja Shippen's opponent from the last event? There was some stories going around that he just no-showed and literally didn't even get on his flight back to the country. Is that true?
Yeah, and the most crazy thing is that he weighed in when he after he got into Melbourne, he weighed in and I think he was about 74 or something. So he was 72, fighting at 68. It was a catch weight, 68. He weighed in at 72. He was 4 kilos over. Raja goes, oh, whatever, I'll fight him. Then he's disappeared, and then we found out he was 76, so 8 kilos over. And Raja goes, I don't care. I don't care what he weighs. I just want to fight him. Raja came to the show and with all his stuff, and he just said, if he comes, if you get onto him, I don't care what he weighs, I'll fight him. So Raja's an absolute just gangster. But yeah, we never did find him.
Does that mean technically you just like smuggled someone into the country?
I think he ended up going home, but I just think he stayed here longer than what we had originally planned.
Does that happen a lot? Is that why we don't have internationals on the card?
That's never happened before. Yeah, it was. I really felt for Raja. He did everything that he had to do, and he came and he was like, he goes, I just don't care what he weighs. He could come in at 100 kilos and I'll fight him. Yeah, it was a shame, but these things happen, I guess, and
No, they don't.
or the punches, they don't happen, but yeah.
Oh, Gus Johnson, you can't say. These things happen. Don't give me that media answer. Speaking of media, who will be? I mean, this is such a stacked card. Like, everyone could be at the press conference, but I don't suggest you'll have 10 people up there or 12 people up there. Who will be at the press conference?
So we're just going to have the last 4 fights there. So you've got the 3 title fights, and then Matt and Kit will be there as well.
Ah, the number 1 contender fight for the welterweight belt. It is, isn't it? You can tell me.
Nah, it's just a fight that'll shape the division. But those guys, there's obviously history there, so I think that'll add There's too many nice guys in MMA. All the title fights are nice guys, so we just need to spice it up a little bit with a little bit of heat, a little bit of bad blood. I know that these guys don't necessarily, not that they don't like each other, but there's a bit of history and a bit of bad blood there. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out on the press conference.
All right, mate. Well, as we wrap it up, tickets still available? We sold out.
Yeah, there's about, I think, 12 tickets left when I checked earlier today. So,
well,
really at the crux of it. Yeah, it'll be another packed out show.
The still would be in sports?
Yeah, correct. And I think, I can't remember if we spoke about this, but beIN Sports have now partnered with Amazon Prime as well. Yeah. So, kind of like, they've now, Amazon has like a sport section, kind of like how Stan has Stan Sport. Amazon Prime and beIN have partnered together, which means that any live events that are streaming on beIN Sports will now also be viewable on Amazon Prime, which is massive for us. Amazon Prime has millions of subscribers. So
does that mean? Why did you not tell me that? That's very important information. Does that mean? Do you know the details? Like, do you know if you have an Amazon Prime subscription, do you then have to still buy a beIN Sports one, or? Yeah,
so you need beIN Sports Connect, which allows you to watch the pay-per-view. But so you'll still need an Amazon Prime subscription, and you'll need to pay for the pay-per-view, similar to how it is on KO. You might have the KO subscription, but you have to buy the UFC. The same thing, but obviously it's going to be advertised to millions and millions of people. Yeah, no, that's very cool. As we're wrapping up there, I don't feel like KO was the best connection, because did you have trouble with that with the UFC? I feel like thousands of people did on the weekend. Yeah, I bought the pay-per-view. I love it, mate. If I find a stream, I'll let everyone know. But Hex Fight Series 29, March 2nd, Melbourne Pavilion. Check it out, or hit up Hex on the socials to find out more. Thanks for your time, mate. And I'm sure we will cause some shit in the coming week.